Hey guys, it's Derek with the Fantasy Flyer, back with your weekly starts and sits for week 9. We are batting right around 70%, which is a pretty good number. Would like 75%, but 70% is perfectly good. And we're going to continue going into week 9 with 3 more starts and 3 more sits that you can trust. There's some interesting ones here. A couple waiver wire pickups and some bigger names that we're not going to play, at least if you're me. So let's jump right into it with our first start. Start number 1, Devin Singletary, running back, Houston Texans. So this is kind of one of those picks where it makes a lot of sense from the fact that this gentleman has just been stepping forward and forward in this offense, which isn't really a bad offense. And now he's going to get the opportunity with someone else being out. Dameon Pierce was ruled out for this Sunday's matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Devin Singletary will start and probably see a lion's share of the snaps, 70 to 80%. The start of good fantasy production is opportunity. It's one of my favorite phrases, and this year has kind of demonstrated that. Tampa is allowing 100 rush yards per game. Tampa's dead last in the league at holding opponents on third downs, which is 50.3% conversion for opposing teams. And Tampa Bay is allowing 354 yards per game. To add on to this, Vita Vea is questionable for Tampa Bay, so that defensive line could take a hit if he is to sit. It would be slight help for Singletary. I don't expect great numbers, but he is an excellent waiver wire pickup this week, especially if you have somebody on bye or one of the very many injuries that seem to be occurring. I don't know if he's going to hit 20 points because that seems like, big home run hit, but I think he could solidly be around the 11 to 12, maybe 13, and I think that's fine if you need to fill in on a bye week. Start number 2, Chris Olave, wide receiver, New Orleans Saints. All right, Chris Olave managers, it's the time of the year you've been waiting for. Kind of. Uh, this is a great matchup, so let's start off with that. But Chris Olave has a lot of upside that a lot of folks are kind of forgetting. Now, Michael Thomas has been a target hog for most of the year, and that's probably not going to change. But the matchup kind of allows for Thomas to do that and Olave to hit his ceiling, and I think you're going to see close to a ceiling game for Olave. The uh, the the man himself is 7th in the league in targets. Matchup is right, like I said. Bears have allowed 7.1 yards per pass attempt to opponents. They don't sack the quarterback, dead last in the league at 3.2% sack. They don't get turnovers, and New Orleans is number 1 in the league in offensive plays run. I can't imagine that's going to change much. So what that means is more time to hold the ball, more offensive plays, more opportunity, and probably more scoring. Olave's ceiling, realistically, by the numbers, is between 16 and 17 points. If he finds a touchdown, goes for over 100, has 7 or 8 catches in this, which he very well could, you're looking at the low to mid 20s. And that would be great for somebody who hasn't done that this year. Please, Chris, please. Start number 3, Demario Douglas, wide receiver, New England Patriots. So if you've talked to me at all in the last like 4 or 5 days, I've probably mentioned this gentleman's name multiple times. Kendrick Bourne was the top target earner really since week 4 for the Patriots, and he is now out for the season with a torn ACL. When he left last week's game, Douglas was treated and performed for the most part like a wide receiver one. Didn't have a lot of yards, but had multiple targets, 7 targets to be exact. But that is against a Miami Dolphins team, which is a little bit more stingy on defense than the Washington Commanders, who the Patriots face off against this week. Washington is allowing 256 pass yards per game. They're allowing 64% of opponents' passes to be completed. Washington is 28th in the league, allowing over 3 touchdowns per game on average, and scoring against them is not a foreign language to anyone in the league. I like Douglas not only for the waivers, but for the rest of the season, just in case you're curious. They do play teams like the Jets, the Broncos. I mean, there's teams that you can have good wide receiver games from here on out. I like Douglas for around 10 to 11. His ceiling is 15 if he can find the end zone for his first career touchdown. Sit number 1, DK Metcalf, wide receiver, Seattle Seahawks. All right, so I'll be the guy. I'm going to go off in the deep end now, and I'm going to try and tell you not to play somebody or count on somebody who has been consistently productive, and this will be the 1 week where they won't produce. Keenan Allen was a good call for me. Saquon Barkley was a good call for me. Mike Evans was a good call for me. So if I'm going to be 3 for 3, I'd might as well see if I can keep up batting 1,000. DK Metcalf is taking on a very stingy Baltimore Ravens defense. Baltimore has allowed only 6 touchdowns passing, which is technically the least per game, considering the Texans have 5, but the Texans have played one less game. The Texans are not the Baltimore Ravens, however. Baltimore is allowing 176 passing yards per game, which is the third least in the league. And Geno Smith has not been as accurate as he was last year. 70% completion last year, just a dot over 63% so far this year. Sounds like a rough time for Metcalf. If you can't get the ball out, you're not going to see a lot of yards. I'm expecting less than 12 fantasy points for DK Metcalf. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going to take him out of my 3 leagues that I got him in. Sit number 2, Trey McBride, tight end, Arizona Cardinals. So there's a little bit of an assist for this one. Actually, really a couple of assists. Number 1, Clayton Tune is expected to start. However, even if Kyler Murray happens to surprise us all, and on Saturday afternoon they say Kyler Murray is starting, I really don't like Trey McBride anyway. The second thing is that the Cardinals are facing arguably the best defense in the league this year. Cleveland Browns, they're pretty good. But especially against tight ends, they allow only, checks notes, 4 fantasy points on average per game. Now, they have allowed 2 touchdowns to the tight end, so it's not all blanks. But I think that this makes Trey McBride an insanely touchdown dependent play this week, especially if you have a tight end that's on bye. Cleveland allowing 3 catches and 19 yards on average. They guard the middle of the field very well. And even if Kyler does start, I don't think Trey McBride is worth the necessary pickup if you're trying to get a flyer off waivers. I have McBride somewhere around 8 fantasy points. If he finds the end zone, he could hit 10 or 11, which is probably the only way you're going to find good value on the waiver wire. I would stay away and look elsewhere at the tight end position. Sit number 3, Raheem Mostert, running back, Miami Dolphins. So there's a couple reasons why I don't like Raheem Mostert, and I don't like Raheem Mostert from the sense that he's not going to see the field and he's not going to be dependent on, and he's not going to be used in the passing game because he's going to be all 3 of those things. But it's the matchup that he has with the Chiefs. I've been at it with a bunch of fans all week that say the Dolphins are the number one offense, the Dolphins are the number one offense, and I'm going to spend 30 seconds and tell you why that number is not a true number one offense. And it's their schedule. They haven't played good teams up until now. Now they're playing good teams. The 2 teams they've lost to, the Bills and the Eagles, well, they're 12-4. So that's their combined record. Everybody else that the Dolphins have beat have a combined record of 11-27. I don't think that makes them a number one offense. Unfortunately, the yardage says they are, and Tyreek Hill is a menace. So let's just keep that on and focus back on Raheem Mostert, who is going to face a tough Chiefs defense, if I can say words. Mostert will do plenty in the pass game, so let's not even talk about that just yet. But the Chiefs have only given up 2 rushing touchdowns all year. They're allowing 2.7 yards per play, which is 4.7 yards per play, which is tied for second best in the league. Kansas City is allowing 5.5 yards per pass, which is also a top 10 in the league. The defense isn't going to go quietly, and if you're talking about pass defense, they're insanely good in coverage. I really, really like Hill to be underwhelming here, maybe 14 fantasy points, but Raheem Mostert could be somewhere in the 9 to 10 range. If he finds the end zone in any way, he could probably be near 15. I don't like the Dolphins in this game. I don't like the Dolphins to win in Germany. I don't like any of that. I'm picking the Chiefs, and I'm telling you it here now because the Chiefs' defense is just as real as the Bills and the Eagles' defense. And I'll point at you until I end this video, which is right about now. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Take care.